Hey, welcome to the Nadia Marker podcast again. This is the beginning of season number 2. Thank you for waiting for me. Long time no see. I'm packed with a lot of news, a lot of thoughts, a lot of great things to share with you. So let's kick this off. Hello, world. This is the beginning of the season number 2. Welcome back to the Nadia Market podcast. Thank you so much for all of you who have been constantly asking about the next episode. When was the next episode was going to be to launch of the Nadia Market podcast? It has been great to be off for a moment. I had so many projects to be working on, but I'm packed with a lot of things, new things and ideas to share with you. So this is the kickoff. Remember, if you like the show, if you like the podcast, subscribe, hit me with a review so that I can know what kind of content you like about or to be posted on the podcast. Without any further ado, let's begin with the headlines as usual. So today I'm going to keep it short. The idea of the second season is to make shorter episodes. But today I want to talk about two main topics. One of them has to do with Instagram, and a couple of news about Instagram. The first one coming from the Financial Times, which was interesting when I was reading at it. It has to do with the algorithm and how the algorithm filters down the content that is posted on the platform because they're looking for fake news. And this comes at a moment where a lot of pro-Palestinian groups start accusing the Instagram for not allowing the information to be published or to reaching some other users at the moment where the developments or the events were developing, which it's kind of interesting because this is essentially what they wanted to achieve when they kept improving the algorithm for identifying fake news. If you remember a few years ago when all this fake news stuff started to pop up on Facebook and Instagram, one of the main ideas or the main purposes of this strategy was for them to identify on captions, with voice recognition, image recognition software elements that would hint to get not so correct information on the internet. Essentially, this was intended for something good. But the thing here is that when you have so many different events happening at the same time, that makes the platform not so ideal for keeping people up to date. And this is why Twitter shines whenever any news is developing, because their algorithm is less strict in the sense of the word. And what it allows is that more and more unfiltered, I wouldn't say unfiltered because there is some filtering going on, but let's say that it has a broader kind of tolerance to the kind of information that can be posted. And when you have so many news coming from different angles, it's very difficult to understand and to know at the beginning or from the first moment what kind of things or can be said or not, or what kind of things, if someone say that, can lead or mislead people about this specific topic. And essentially, this is what they wanted to do at Facebook. They wanted to cover their backs because again, governments and people started to holding them accountable for the posts and the content that people publish on their platform. So I don't want to dig into this topic because I mean it is something that it's very dense, and it is worthy of having a long discussion with not only me but some other people that may have some different opinions about the matter. But essentially, what we're getting back here is to ask us the question about, should people be held accountable for what they post online, or should the platforms be the ones held accountable for that kind of information? If the second is the one that we are going to hold on to, well, we're going to have to deal with these kind of situations, like in this case with the Israel and Palestinian situation back in a few weeks ago, over and over again, because it is very difficult to prepare an algorithm and to program an algorithm for some cases and situations where that you don't know they're going to are going to happen, right? And what is not feasible is to have humans to keep an eye on them and on the content night and day, which is also kind of it could be another solution. So yeah, a lot of things to keep doing here. I bet that, I mean, Instagram is going to find a way to improve that algorithm to overcome these obstacles. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was it is about Instagram again, and is how they have rolled out the feature for hidden likes. This is set to all the users. They have been testing this for over 2 years, so they have been getting a lot of feedback from different kind of users and different kind of accounts, business, content creators, influencers, regular users, etc. So essentially, what they're doing right now is that they want to give the users the ability to choose whether or not they want their followers to be focused on the content and not on the numbers itself. So for marketers, if you work with influencers, for example, it's going to make more difficult for you to find and to calculate and estimate the true reach and engagement for those accounts. With that being said, my personal and professional experience says that likes is the least engaging of the interaction of them all, because obviously it is the one that requires the less involvement of the user that is triggering that action. Like, I mean, with double tapping, you just hit like on every video or picture, which doesn't necessarily means that you are highly engaged with that. So obviously comments serve as a higher engagement metric, and obviously shares and save in the terms of Instagram itself obviously refers to a higher involvement of the user, and for that reason to a higher engagement value. Also, they have been introducing some window shopping experience to the Instagram shopping feature, which resembles a little bit the Supreme's playbook boost. And this is according to Morning Brew, which it was an interesting comparison. And essentially, what they want to do is to make businesses able to improve and increase the conversion rate just by improving the experience of shopping inside Instagram itself. So with that being said, obviously Instagram could be taking a look at how some Asian platforms, social platforms, deal with social commerce, which is obviously, I mean, they are a few years ahead of us with social commerce in social platforms and social networks like Redbook, for example. So it is interesting. They keep improving. They keep adding these features. So let's hope and wait until they keep including some others to improve the user experience. And the second news, well, it's a topic that I was reading on AdWeek, and this is something that I'm introducing also on the second season. I'm going to each episode recommend an article. It could be an article from business or marketing magazine. It could also be a scientific paper. You know that I'm into the academia, so it could happen to be something more academic. So, but in this case, this comes from AdWeek, and it has to do with a campaign that Pepsi launched last week with the paper wrap of different burgers from famous fast food companies, like essentially Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's. So what is interesting here? I mean, they tweeted and they make reference to in the AdWeek article to a tweet from Pepsi saying, "All burgers go better with Pepsi. Even when we're not on the menu, we're always in the picture." And with the folding of the wrapping, they make up the waves of the Pepsi logo, which is super clever. And they managed to do here two things essentially. The first one is to not mentioning the fast food chains companies, but obviously it is super clear which companies they're referring to. And also, they are not saying anything or implying anything about their product there. If anything, what they are doing is highlighting the value of those products and how good would they pair up with Pepsi. This all comes in the celebration of the National Burger Day in the United States, which is a great way of using holiday marketing on social media with a twist, which is obviously something super interesting. And well, now I'm going to give you or leave you with a final thought. I'm also introducing on the second season a tidbit about some things that are going on in the MarTech field, as seen from the professionals that that are working in that area in less than a minute, just to keep things shorter and more compact, so that you can enjoy these episodes when you're commuting or you're you're driving on your car or whatever. Today, what I want to share with you is the how the measurement of attribution has been changing, and how it has been a little bit more challenging after the deprecation of the third-party data, and things like the changes on iOS 14 applied by Apple. So this has made a little bit more difficult to keep track of the conversions through different devices. Essentially, we are being more reliant on the tags that we can add to the traffic that comes through our properties like websites, e-commerce, or mobile apps, in terms of UTMs, in terms of URL parameters that can help you to later see that on your analytics tool. It could be Adobe, it could be Google Analytics, it could be anything. And the main challenge here is that whenever you take a look at the different platforms, like you could have some very different data on Facebook ads, on Twitter ads, on your analytics tool, it is important. And when you compare that with the back office point of sale, it could be also different. So this is super important to keep in mind, especially as all these platforms adapt to the measurement and tracking of the conversions. With that being said, it is also important for us to convey how are we going to convey the message to the user, especially on iOS and coming up on Android, that letting us to track them will not only benefit us, but will also benefit them, because essentially what they're allowing us to do is to understand their needs, what they're interested on, so that we can filter the kind of communication that we send out to them, so that it could be more accurate and it could be a good fit for what they're looking, rather than just annoying them with things that they don't care about. I'm going to make an episode about attribution modeling, which is the paper that I'm working right now for my thesis, my Ph.D. thesis, the first one that I intend to publish. It's going to be a long episode. I'm going to warn you about that. But essentially, what I'm going to talk about is how the current state of the attribution modeling is right now, and how these reliant on being reliant on first party data is impacting those attribution models that we were used to implement, and how are we going to deal with the leverage of first party data instead of third party data, and how we can overcome the fact that we are going to be more reliant on platforms like Facebook, like Twitter, like Google, which obviously are going to be the one holding up the information of their users, on for which we are going to be asking to borrow information for anytime we try to run some ads. I mean, this is not anything that we have not done in the past, but essentially what we're dealing right now is that it's more difficult, especially for cross-device conversion attribution, to keep track on that kind of interactions. And obviously it's going to make it more difficult for you to measure how good your marketing campaign is performing. So, well, guys, this was the first episode of the second season. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said, I'm trying to keep this episode a little bit shorter so that you don't get bored from my voice. Please keep the conversation going. Mention me or comment on this episode on social media. Please hit me with a review if you like the show, or if you don't. Also, subscribe if you like it. Please recommend this episode or this show to anyone who might be interested in the content that I share. Thank you so much. See you on the next episode. Lempi out.